Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back. So looking ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta, over Japan and foreign into Taiwan. Today, talking all things rogue, and more importantly, what are the rogue decks which really survive in this brand new format in Black Pot and White Flare. Now, we've had that format for just a couple of days, which kind of had it for a few weeks. So we're going to see exactly how the meta is really shaping up, and what exactly are the best rogue decks really survive in this brand new format. Let's really get a reveal of one new card, which actually could be some sort of a splash in meta game. I just want to say thank you so much for supporting my channel recently. And without further ado, let's jump right into the brand new card. So the new card we've got to talk about is of course Kyogre, and there definitely is some sort of splash and could see some synergies. Now it has 150 HP with 3 retreat, which definitely is a little bit hefty, but we do have Latias and Air Balloon in this format. That's 2 attacks. The first one is Riptide, does 20 damage, nice amount of water energies you have in your discard pile, then shuffle those cards in the deck afterwards. And you have 1 for 2 water in the colors, Swirling Waves, 130 damage, discard 2 energies from this Pokemon. And overall, I think this could be quite strong. Riptide doing a ton of damage, especially a good late game closer. When you look at it more closely, when you have to shuffle in 10 water energies to do 200 damage, that doesn't really seem as strong. Now, I thought, oh, it could be good in Shin, but Shin normally plays between 10 and 8 water energies, not exactly 15. Because if this has a Brave Bango and you shuffle in 15 energies, you'll do 330 damage, the magic number. But at the end of it, we do have some really good discard factor. Think about Ultra Ball, Superior Energy Retrieval, Research, the Brilliant Blender. We have a lot of discard factor, which could in fact work well with Kyogre. I think it could be a good sort of endgame closer, potentially even in GLC as well. But overall, I'm not as impressed, but definitely don't write this one off. I think this could be a late game sweeper for a good sort of attacking in, which we haven't seen right now. Now, let's actually look at the meta as a whole before we analyze these rogue archetypes. So if we look at this past few week over in Japan, we can see that the format has shaped up a little bit with over 1,105 results. I'm unsure if that's recorded purely based on this week or the entirety of the Black Ball White Flame meta share. We can see here that Dragapult is up at the top, over 15%, 17.1% meta share of all the wins right now in the gym challenges. And in A tier between the 15 and 10% bracket, we have these Brimstone, we have Raging Bolt, Goldengo, and Gardevoir, and then the 6% and below, we have Charizard, Enzeroark, Infinite Typhlosion, Joltik Box, Archaladon, Cynthia's Garchomp, and Eevee Box. Overall, looking at this metagame, some of them have really benefited from the new set. Thinking about likes of Dragapult, really I think it's gained a lot just from the release of Hilda, making sure you can actually get out with sort of special energies, like the Lewis energy, which has really come to shine right now in Dragapult, but more importantly, any of your evolving Pokemon becomes absolutely incredible. Now, the likes of Minus Grimmsnarl and Raging Bolt haven't really gained much, but I think they gain a great position in Mr. Shem. Obviously, Gym Championships, Raging Bolt absolutely dominated over there by winning the multi event, and of course, kind of like piloting back the straight sort of the straight version of this one, not playing the Noctowl build. That Minus Grimmsnarl has become incredibly powerful and made a video a few weeks ago by showing the pure power on lights of Team Devolution, as well as also Miraculous, which obviously this deck really capitalizes on. Now, the deck which actually gains quite a few new good attackers and generally good support is, of course, Goldengo and Gardevoir. Goldengo gains a huge consistency with the likes of Genesect to get our evolving Pokemon, as well as also Air Balloons. Now, also, our Goldengo is another attacking option or support Pokemon, and all have that free retreat option, which is definitely needed in this deck. And of course, it becomes a good source of synergies as well. Just to play the other Genesect to shut off the A-Specs as well, sort of Toolcut. And of course, there's other good sort of secondary attacking options in the deck. And Gardevoir gains the likes of Genesect, Genesect and Jellicent. Quite confusing when they're both released in the same set. And of course, that becomes more of a item lock sort of focus sort of deck. And then going with the Team Devolution, more of that spread sort of factor about Gardevoir. Looking at this one here, we can see here that these are definitely the top 5 archetypes. Charizard as well is also up there, but I feel like it's always much better over in Japan compared to in our sort of format. But looking at these top 5 decks, how on earth can some rogue decks really focus? When we look at some of the best sort of performing rogue decks more recently, we think about like some Greninja, Mamoswine, Chien-Pao, which is my favorite deck, of course, but it's becoming much more rogue archetype now, as well as also Blaziken. All of these become great and powerful, but when we look at this one, they really evolve on these really low HP basic Pokemon. This 70 HP, and most of them even have that 60 as the more optimal one to choose from. When you think about 60, it can be really huge targeted from the likes of the Frostless Mikidori sort of decks, but obviously the likes of Dragapult with the Lucha plus spread. It becomes very, very difficult for some of these decks to really kind of get going. They might be a bit more slower. And now I feel like Black Ball White Flare, all of these other top 5 decks become much quicker. Goldengo is now got a really good streamline to get the attackers up, purely on the base of Genesect. Dragapult becomes much better in their searching cards. Now of Hilda, they can actually get out their special energy and one of their evolving Pokemon, like Dracloak, to draw in to a Dragapult in the late game. And of course, God of War becomes more of that item lock sort of focusing on attack. Maybe someone like playing 2 to 3 Frillishes, which is a great sort of burst attack, and then evolving into Jerson as well, making you not even play any tool cards as well. If you look at the other B sort of category, I think some of the rogue decks can really keep up with this sort of metagame because they did gain quite a few new cards. Our Hydragon kind of is kind of always sort of there, but it did gain likes of Genesect, so we can actually easily get out our Hydrons as well. And Joltik Box, of course, gains the likes of um, Zekrom as a good sort of late game attacking option, and Electric if you go that way for good energy acceleration. And of course, we have, let's not forget, my favorite new deck right now, Ethan's Diversion, gaining that Brave Angle, having amazing ways to do additional more damage factors, so you don't need to rely on that likes of the Defiance band when you're behind. So you can see here, some of the top decks became even more elevated with these sort of new cards. So what exactly are the rogue decks really survive, and how on earth could they really strategy against these top decks? So the first one I look at is this Hydragon, because I think it's done incredibly well recently. Of course, obviously, Neddy did incredibly well at EUIC, Stockholm Regionals, and all these ones with the regular Terra sort of Hydragon. And it's very, very powerful. We have Obsidian thing to 130 damage and 130 more to one of your opponent's big Pokemon, which is incredibly strong. And we have that new Hydragon as well, doing more damage if it knocks out a basic Pokemon. It does 200 damage, which definitely is quite steep for 5 energies. We do have a ways around this one. By having the Obsidian to do more damage around the board, you can now boss up or counter catch it up with the other Hydragon, which requires a lot of energies, so take this big one-hit KO and take 3 prizes on Unfasant, which is incredibly strong. How can we do this? We have Hilda. Like I mentioned before, it really unlocks a lot of stuff right now, and not just like the Dragapult, but a lot of these rogue archetypes. We play Ignition Energy as well, additional double energy attachment with the likes of Counter Game, as well as also the likes of if we do play Crispin, we can do that. Energy Switch, there are so many different ways around this one, which can make Hydragon become a good sort of late game attacking option in the late game. I really think this deck is pretty powerful, pretty strong overall, and a really good sort of rogue deck. This deck can struggle against like Dragapult, Raging Bulk, they can just go much quicker around this one, but I think against like some Minus Grimmstyle, you already spread down a lot of damage counter, the opponent does as well. You can have the likes of N0 to additional good sort of attacking option in the late game, which can really surprise your opponent. I really, really love Hydragon in the next upcoming future, and I think it could be a great sort of addition to his Leafeon in for Worlds. Next one is Festival League. Now, this had a lot of hype going into Black Ball White Flare, and became even stronger right now. The reason why this deck is doing incredibly well, because it does hit decks for Grass Weakness. When we look at some of the top decks, we think of Minus Grimmsnarl, Parasite, as well as also N0. Great and powerful decks right now in our form, as well as also over in Japan. With Festival League, when we have the festival grounds in the in the stadium sort of spot here, we have our Diplin, we can actually attack twice. And with having the Brave Angle, and well, you can get these huge one-hit KO potentials on likes of Charizard as well. Now, with having the Maximum Belt and Black Belt, as well as also Brave Angle, you can actually do a ton of damage against the regular sort of EXs and not even hit for weakness, for ones you don't hit for weakness as well, which I think is great. You also have the Thwacky to get your any sort of card from the deck. You also have the Rabscar as well to have that really good sort of protection from damage counters, but also damage from your opponent's side onto your bench. Now, what I love about this one is a purely single prize archetype, so your opponent has to take 6 prizes. Now, you might take a little bit of a while to set up, but I think this is a great sort of contender right now. Whereas they already has a little bit of play right now online, and I think could definitely become much stronger right now. If we see Minus Grimmsnarl, it would potentially be a 10% or even more at Worlds. This could be a really good one to be testing against. I think it's a great rogue archetype. It gets some amazing things like Brave Ankle, so you don't need to rely on Defiance Belt, and of course just generally having the Maximum Belt and Black Belt's expertise, you can do a ton extra damage from this one, and then get these huge one-hit KO potentials, even if you don't hit for weakness. Another good big rogue deck, which I think is getting a lot of hype right now, is Greninja. And it did gain a lot of really good cards. Now, I've always been a huge fan of Greninja. We've seen it kind of work well before with the in the Palkia sort of style deck, with having the Decimal, but one of the trickiest things with Greninja is that energy cost. Water and 2 colors, doing what? Being able to discard 2 energies, and you get to 20 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. And it becomes really, really difficult to really constantly chain this one. Well, this is well, of course, favorite card from this new set, Hilda really comes in handy. With this one, you have to search deck for evolving Pokemon. In this case, you can get to Dunsparce to actually add for your draw factor and ignition energy as well. Attach it to the grading Greninja. It was a while ago, Greninja EX, and also now you've got your energy attachment as well, and not relying like Crispin, which this deck also does run. Can also play other sort of key cards as well for the cheat around this one, but playing the Spark Crystal and Crispin. So you have ways around this one, but I really like when anything does for this deck. You can always discard it before that discard effect happens at the end of your turn. I think this deck is incredibly strong. I think the Tool Scrapper, because lots of decks right now are playing the likes of the Bravery Charm, as well as also Hero's Tape in their decks, really protecting not just their low HP Pokemon, but also their support Pokemon as well, like the Clefairy, like the positively affect their Mew, boosting up their HP a lot. By removing that with that Ultra Grabber, it could be incredibly impactful, especially for you. I also like the Clary, because then you have an easy answer for like to Dragapult as well as also Raging Bolt. I think Greninja is in a great sort of spot right now in this new sort of format. Of course, you can have a huge sort of bench sort of size with your, using your opponent's Area Zero, where of course you also have some great sort of searching cards as well, with the likes of the Knockouts as well. Overall, I think Greninja is in a great sort of spot right now in the new sort of format, and deck watched carefully, it could be quite good. It's also Shin. Now, there's quite a few different sort of builds here, and so it is a lot. But again, it plays likes of Hilda. And it really answers the question, has Hilda really unlocked a lot of more of these rogue archetypes? And only unlocked a lot of these stage 2 potential decks, but in so many different decks, like this one, you can get out your Water Energy as well as also your Excalibur. In Greninja, you can get your Greninja as well as also your Ignition Energy. In like the Dragapult, you can get your Cloaks as well as also your special energies as well, like Upper Neo. There are so many ways that Hilda has really unlocked a ton of these sort of rogue archetypes. In this Shin Power deck here, I think it's a great sort of contender. Now, there's a couple of things I definitely would change. Definitely the support account is a little rough. If I'm honest with you, the one that I did win, I definitely would much more like the Team Rocket's Petril or have more heavy accounts of Arvin so I can actually get all of these cards. Because without drawing into these one, it's really, really difficult to get this. Now I know there is a 2-2 line of knocked out, and we play 3 different types of Terra Pokemon to help search out all these sort of key cards. But overall, I just think it is a little bit of a mess of a Shin Power list, but I still think it's really fun. We are seeing Shin Power win quite a few events. We are seeing it do quite well poised right now. Again, we're seeing Latias be added into the deck because they do play the 70 HP Frigid Baxes because you kind of have to, and it does have a 2 retreat cost, so mitigating that retreat is really strong. Also, the Air Balloon as well, attaching that to an active Shin Power, then retreating into another Shin Power, basically enters the likes of 4 energies, which becomes super, super relevant and powerful. Suppose also we have Latias as well for that additional free retreat. Another one is Leafeon Wolves, and this rogue archetype has popped up in a few sort of one. We saw the likes of Glaceon with Froslass, Monkey Dory, but this Leafeon Wolves would actually be onto something. Now, of course, Leafeon, again, like the first fully, hits for relevant weakness, hits against the likes of Charizard, the Mars Grimmsnarl, as well as also Zoroark as well. That becomes great, and also has inbuilt healing factors as well. Do additional more damage with the likes of the what's it called? The Pokemon Gym is a great sort of one as well. You have Team Evolution to really Energy Accelerate to power up these Pokemon much quicker, but also we have some very good wolves right now. Q is obviously perfect protector from EX Pokemon. We're expecting a lot of EXs right now in this format, so it's great to go around this one. And also Frigoroth as well, protecting as well from basics. I think these are great sort of inclusions as well. 4 copies of Crispin, because you are very much a heavy Crispin sort of archetype deck, and that kind of like works incredibly well into your favor. I really like what the synergy this deck has to offer. Now you might go, but Charlie, there isn't really any new sort of cards right now added from Black Bolt White Flare. But I think this is a good sort of reading the meta and becomes incredibly powerful. It's seen very high H basics for Pokemon like Raging Bolt, and it's why you can have the likes of the Frigoroth in this one. We're generally going with, if we look at the metagame, we could see 15% of the format could potentially be the likes of Minus Grimmsnarl, Charizard, and then Zoroark. This is where the likes of Leafeon could be really powerful, and also has that inbuilt healing as well. Another one is Meowcarada, another grass type deck. So we're seeing a lot of good resurgence of this one purely on the basis of that. And I feel like this is more on the basis that it does a good sort of damage in the late game and not really going to be attacking. This is a Froslass Monkey Dory deck, and we have seen so many of those builds. And I remember talking about it a lot a few weeks ago. We throw likes of Jellicent, we've seen it with likes of Rock'n'Roll, we've seen it likes, of course, Minus Grimmsnarl, with Badoom, and now also we're seeing it with Meowcarada. I know lots of people online have always tried to make Meowcarada work, but maybe it's time to shine now with that Ignition Energy. Make you do additional more damage if it has for it. Activating for it, so very hefty, very difficult to retreat. So retreat, attack cost being that double colors. It doesn't really work with double turbo and that without here, but also you can have likes of counter gain and ignition energy, so other ways to actually get the attack off with Meowcarada. Would like a crisp in this one, so another way to end accelerate, but also looks like you might be using your Meowcarada ability in this one. Sky in the grass energy and do some damage on your opponent's Pokemon. Having a Froslass Monkey Dory makes you move around this one, having Miraculous, you get to trip something, and of course you have Team Devo and Blow Out Sooner for these late game sort of plays. Could this generally be Meowcarada's time to shine right now? Hitting for weakness, it generally was unlocked a little bit with that Black Bolt White Flare, having the Ignition Energy and Air Balloon for that free retreat. We just have to see for this deck. Another one as well is Unfasant. We are so misled with that put up when we first saw it saying Unfasant EX. We all got hyped that we could see this Unfasant EX kind of pop out. At the end of the day, it wasn't really to be. But it does have a good sort of synergy. Having the Snowy Mountain with an energy attachment to this one instantly unlocks a way to evolve your deck. So, sorry, evolve Pidove and search it for that Unfasant. You have other two great attacking options, one to do 70 damage, as well as also one to do 180 as well. So a good sort of two-shot of many things. And it can work well if you're behind in prizes and you have the reversal energy, or if you're ahead or generally one happy, you utilize the energy. You of course have that ignition energy as well, which works really well. Having likes of the throw up becomes a good sort of additional attacking option. The other sort of late game, do more damage. And you can only play, sorry, you do have Dancing as well, so you can play this one, do more damage with the amount of damage Pokemon your opponent has, or generally copying one of their attacks as well. The only interesting thing in this set is definitely the one more line of ferret. I have no idea why this is added, but maybe it could be some fun sort of way the artist really wanted to play with it. And also, of course, because you are going to be behind in prices, you can play the likes of the I always forget that TM, the one which is 120 damage, as well as Crisis Punch, as well as also having the Luxury as well as a good sort of one to play down. Very interesting. Again, does play the Hilda, so you get your energy, as well as also your Unpheasant. So all your Zoroark, so is a good sort of way around this one. So let's go well with it. So the Unpheasant actually make its time to shine right now because of how powerful it really could become right now because of Ignition Energy. Now I'm looking at other ones as well. Weezing, I just really like this deck. It's kind of like coming around this one, 40 plus 40 times the amount of coffee and Weezings you have on your bench. After we get a bigger bench, or we will of course play Pikachu and Terra, the Cornerstone Master Ogerpon. Really difficult one to get your opponent to KO. Pikachu can't be one hit KO straight away. Cornerstone one has the ability, it can't be affected by Pokemon's abilities, so you can unlock, have a massive sort of bench size and just be attacking with them. Having the reversal energies, as well as also the MT Rockets energy, is great for the likes of this deck. And I think it can keep up in this sort of format. It plays a lot of good ways to kind of go around this one. It's a single prize archetype. It can go around the likes of some ones which want obviously go around the two prizes, but you do have these huge liability on the bench, which can be really difficult as well. It doesn't really hit for weakness on many things except like of Gardevoir, so you have a good matchup against this one. But overall, I think this is a fun sort of deck as well, which is great to see these rogue decks kind of go around. And of course, we want to look at some more competitive sort of rogue decks. Basically, it's a great one to look at. This one here is definitely much more on the more of a competitive side for rogue decks. We've seen it do incredibly well. It reminds me a lot of the 2004 World Blaziken deck back in the day. It basically exit and accelerate to your guides, and you also have the regular Blaziken as well. 120 damage, discard all energies, do some damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's a great sort of snipping around between the two of them. You have Reversal Energy to unlock lights of the Baby Blaziken, and having multiple Blazikens out makes a really good energy acceleration. One of the things that doesn't really play any of the new cards, you could play likes again. Broken Record, Hilda, because that really does unlock a lot of these sort of decks. Pidgeot to get any card you want to have, Mirax to trap something, and then Monkey to move around some damage counters. I think this deck is really, really well poised in this new metagame right now. I think it's incredibly powerful for a rogue deck and can really catch some people off guard. And finally, I just want to look at Terrapagos, a deck which is really weird to say in a rogue sort of style deck. This was the absolute dominance of House when we had our first reveal for Dusknoir, and this one here, there is a lot going on, but generally, I think this could see some play. Now, of course, it was good when we had double turbo. Now we have likes of Crispin and Counter Game, which is a good way to unlock the style deck. And you have a lot of good ways around this one. Of course, you have the Pidgeot to get anything you want to have. Noctowl to get, again, anything you really want to have for trainer-wise. You have other good attacking options like Fairy, Blowing Luna, and Budgie for trapping factors and stalling. But one thing that I find super interesting is let's play the 101 line of Dusknoir. We have not seen this in quite a while for Terrapagos because, of course, you don't really want to give out any of your opponent that extra sort of prize cards, but I think it could work well. Having that one copy of Super Rod as well as also the Night Stretcher means you can actually reutilize it later on, especially with these 3 copies of Rare Candy, so you can constantly try and get out potentially 3 Dusknoirs out constantly. Very, very interesting style deck. I think it's very, very powerful, and hopefully we can see a bit more Terrapagos love in the future. So generally looking ahead here, and the big question, of course, I've looked at is Hilda really unlocking lots of these evolution decks? And I feel like it really is making the rogue decks really cool to survive right now in this new format. But one of these things, looking at these rogue decks, looking at how a meta is really so defined, it's the meta just too found out. Do we have such a powerful sort of meta game with the most sort of powerful like top 5, top 6 sort of decks right now that rogue decks are really difficult to really come out and shine? And that's generally one thing which is a little bit of a limitation. I would love Greninja EX really like come around because I think it's such a powerful deck right now. Gaining that ignition energy, gaining Hilda, gaining that Tools Grabber, I think it's incredibly well. So I suppose also the likes of Shin and Hydragon. I think these ones could be generally really, really powerful right now going into the future. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Next week, I do think we are getting, this Friday, we're getting the full reveal of the Mega Evolution sort of set before it gets revealed. So, we're going to be talking about them a lot next week, which I'm really, really excited about. Hope you guys are enjoying this testing in the Black Belt White Flare. Let me know what you think about this new format in the comment section below, and what is your favorite rogue deck to play in this new format. I'll be back in a few days for another video. For now.